Let's welcome the director, Alan Polsky, out. We have a tradition here. We give people the golden thumb, and it's a casting of Roger's thumb, and it's made by the same people who make the Academy Awards. So will you please accept this golden thumb from Ebertfest? And we'll take care of it for you backstage. We're going to call, we're going to call Sheila O'Malley out, and she's going to moderate, and Sam Fragoso is going to do a Q&A with you.
So I reviewed this for RogerEbert.com. This was the first time that I saw it, as I told you, on a little Vimeo screening link. So to see it on the big screen was really incredible. Your background is as, producers with your brother, and I wondered what it was about this project that made you want to take this on as a first-time director.
Yeah. Well, we were actually looking for something to direct for a while, and we were thinking actually about a couple other movies, but then we got our hands on this book, and we just sort of felt like it was a perfect opportunity to tell a very sort of personal brother story that didn't exactly mirror our relationship, but we felt that coming out of the gate as first-time directors, you have to sort of get, a lot of people behind you, particularly talent. And, we thought, well, we're brothers, so I think we can convince people at least that we understand that relationship. So, we found this book, and we just thought it was a really beautiful story. And, there was a lot of opportunity as filmmakers, sort of with the animated piece, to expand and do some different things. So we just sort of fell in love with the book and made it happen.
Wow, so the adaptation came after you found the book? Did you develop that adaptation?
Yep.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, because it's very faithful to the book.
Yeah, we tried to be, we tried to stick to the story, and it's one of those books that I think.
It's a great book.
Yeah, it's a great book, and it's got a unique voice, and but a lot is sort of in his head, so that was a challenge with the adaptation, to bring a lot of that out. And I think that in particular with the animation, you were really able to see what the influences of these guys were without being really didactic and having a lot of explanation, in the narration. And so we really liked that and tried to, put that into the story as much as possible.
Right. We were talking about the animation.
Right. Yeah. The animation, it very much seems to be about storytelling. And I had this quote that I kept thinking about. I'm going to pull out an iPhone. I'm sorry, people. And read this quote. It's from the Lazarus Project. And it's, all the lives we could live, all the people we will never know, never will be, they are everywhere. That is what the world is. And I kept thinking about this quote and storytelling and all these alternative lives these characters wanted to live and just, they long for. Was that a motivating drive for you?
Yeah, absolutely. There's that part with Christopherson when he's, telling Frank, listen, you've had a really hard run.
Right.
I tell these stories to escape for a little bit, and I think that these guys have no money. they don't have an opportunity to really do too many things, but I think that is the beauty of storytelling, is, we can escape into books and movies and telling each other stories. Even when we're children, our parents kind of tell us the stories. We can go off to a far-off land and experience that in our mind. And, I think that it's where they found their hope. And I think that, at least for me, when I saw what they were telling stories about, it really opened me up to these characters where you get such a stronger sense of what their influences were. I mean, I was actually concerned we were making the movie, everyone was going to think we were perverts, because,
Not exactly. We didn't.
In all the storytelling, they're with strippers and getting blowjobs and things like that. And these guys grew up in Reno, and they grew up in a gambling community. I don't know how many people have been to Reno, but it's strip clubs and casinos, and that's sort of what they knew. And obviously, when they're telling stories, it's sort of what their background is, and yeah.
Well, Roger directed a movie that would influence is an interesting point. You talk about that. You've worked with Herzog. I didn't see any lizards, but I could have missed that.
There were some lizards in there.
Who were your influences? What really, especially Herzog, how has that affected your work?
It's hard to really point to one person and say that, exactly how they affected our work. I think that working with Werner, on the first movie that I made, was a great experience, because he is very much a intuitive storyteller, especially on set. And I think that, watching him work, I don't know, it's funny. It gives you a strong sense of confidence.
Yeah. In the book, it's like this almost, very specific locations in Reno. You could almost draw it on a map, a house, but like we went down the block and we stopped off at the sand, and the locations that you used, were you also in Elko, like the specific town of Elko? But I just thought the locations and the way you used them had this kind of very dreamy quality, even though it's the sleazy, seedy, but there is a dream in that as well, the neon and the ice. And
Yeah, we actually always saw this as a little bit of a fairy tale, and with the end, book that we created with him, sort of writing his story down, it was very much from this sort of dreamy fairy tale perspective. So.
And you were on location in Reno.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that walk through the casino was awesome. That one.
Steadicam shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think any chance you get to show off as a filmmaker is a nice opportunity.
And he's talk about stories. He's like, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was stolen from him, and he just wanted to have a good time. And I was like, it's that's a valid reason.
So that actor, Noah Harpster, is actually the guy that introduced me to the book, and kind of the deal was, if I could get the book, I had to promise to let him and his partner write it. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he was a big part of this.
Yeah. So can we talk a little bit about casting and how you got these guys and?
Yeah. We got Emil. He was one of the first people that we went after, and he actually hadn't made a drama since Into the Wild. And he was looking for something to do, and I'd always really respected his work, and I think that as a dramatic young actor, I think he's just amazing. His face says so much without saying anything, and Frank has very few lines.
Right.
And I just, when Emil sort of fell for the script, it was just kind of a dream come true. And once we got Emil, we read a number of people with him, and we felt that Stephen, first of all, physically kind of looked like his brother. They're similar in sort of size and physicality. And, you know, honestly, we got them in a room and they just felt really good together. And, you know, he was extremely passionate about the material, and I think was really looking for something to sort of show off his strengths as an actor. And he fought for it hard. You know, to be honest, at the beginning, I wasn't sure, you know, if he would be the right guy, just kind of based on other things that he'd done. But he really came after us hard and proved it in the room. So, and then, you know, Dakota Fanning came in. Her manager was actually on our floor of our office building, and she read the script. And Dakota, this is actually, we were in the middle. We were casting females, actresses, and she read the script kind of in the middle of our process, and we went with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was amazing.
Yeah.
And how about Chris Christopherson, who brings that Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, you know, outlaw sensibility.
Yeah.
But that heart, with that heart.
Exactly. I think that kind of crew of guys, Willie Nelson and Chris and Waylon and, you know,
The
Johnny
patron
Cash.
saints of this world.
Yeah. All of their music kind of speaks to this world, and Chris was touring at the time and really was exhausted. He's an older guy and said no 3 times, and I just wouldn't let him say no.
You had to get him.
Yeah.
So how about, let's go further into the animation. How did you develop that? Like your vision of it and working with, I think, Mike Smith is the guy. They're very funny.
Yeah, you know, before we made the movie, we kind of we put together a little bit of a lookbook that sort of showed people, you know, what we thought and kind of images that we liked. And Ralph Steadman was like a big piece of that lookbook. We really liked kind of his raw style. And as we were looking for animators, you know, we interviewed a number of different people, and we found this guy, Mike Smith, out of Portland, and he actually had animated Natural Born Killers. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah. And, you know, he really got it, and, you know, we wanted something that would be believable that Jerry Lee could do. And, you know, we met with a number of people and kind of showed him our influences and worked with him, and we got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They really add so much.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say? Yeah.
Thank you.
It takes place, what, in 1990? It's
Yeah.
slightly dated. Was that a conscious? I mean, like the Tyson Douglas fight was what, and like not the lack of this
and that
going
Dodge
on.
Dart, and that nice Dodge Dart, and
Oh, yeah. I like it because it's a little. It makes it timeless, but it's also a little old-fashioned.
Yeah, my brother and I have always kind of been a little obsessed with Mike Tyson.
Who isn't?
Yeah, and that fight was so iconic because at that time Tyson was invincible, and you know, so we really kind of wanted to keep that consistent, as well as I think not having cell phones makes the story make more sense. So yeah, we kind of wanted to stick to that period, but we wanted to make it feel kind of timeless. We weren't trying to go too overboard with period stuff. We wanted it, as I said, to sort of feel timeless, but, you know, believable that the Tyson fight could happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm curious to backtrack and the casting. There's a line that Dakota says when she comes back to the hotel. She says, "I'm gonna go home. He needs to stay with you. You two need each other. What would he do without you?" And I thought, right, what would he do? What would he do without him? And it's revealed in that moment that they very much need each other. Was that something you were particularly drawn to? I know you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the big themes in the movie is sacrifice. And I think that with siblings, there's sort of this ultimate sacrifice that you have. But I think that in a way, we always sort of saw them as dual protagonists. And the only way really for Frank to sort of move on with his life would be to kind of get past his brother, because his brother's been holding him back the whole time. And but he's had this loyalty to him also. And so I think with Jerry Lee, we tried to use the animation where he kind of gets the girl in the end, but at the same time, we wanted to end it on a more hopeful note where he does die, which is obviously a horrible thing, but it allows Frank to...
It's a two-side he dies, but now he can kind of...
Right.
That's very well done.
And with Jerry Lee, like the way Stephen Dorff brought it, I mean, of Mice and Men, like came up in a lot of the reviews, and I thought of it as well. You know, he seems extremely, not just the leg, but just very compromised emotionally, but remaining so open. And is that what Stephen Dorff, like, thrilled to that material, understood that material on that level? Like that last scene between the two of them is, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Jerry Lee obviously is a little bit slow, but he's got a heart of gold, and you know, it's a little bit like a child. And I think
he keeps saying his name, Frank.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's that honesty that you get from children that is so endearing. And I think as we get older, it's harder for us to be honest. And so I think that's sort of what makes you really fall in love with that character. And you know, it is similar to Mice and Men in that way. But in that last scene, it's him finally stepping into him being an older brother, because he's always been taken care of by his younger brother. And he finally, because I think he knows he's going, he's sort of giving his 2 cents that are coming from a real place of honesty, and Frank knows that. And you know, I think that whenever we all hear truth, it just resonates deeply within us, and that's sort of his gift to Frank.
Right.
Kind of giving him that last piece where he's like, "You're the loneliest guy I know, and come on, do something about it."
Right.
You know, forgive her. Yeah.
Yeah, she's had a hard life. I love his line reading of that. So I guess let's maybe open it up to some questions.
I guess the movie says it all.
I know, it's sad. It makes me sad.
Oh, okay. I noticed in the credits Tom Cross as assistant editor. Is that the same Tom Cross who did Whiplash? I wasn't sure. I just wanted to ask mainly just about the editing process and what that was like, but I thought I recognized that name.
Did Tom Cross edit Whiplash?
No, I wasn't sure it was the same Tom Cross.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
What was the editing process like as far as mixing all the animated sequences in the live action?
The question is, what was the editing process like in mixing together all of these different elements?
Well, the thing with animation is you don't want to make any more of it than you have to because it's so expensive. So you have to be very efficient with that process. We actually switched editors. We had one editor at the beginning, and we weren't getting exactly what we wanted, so we brought somebody else in. Yeah, you know, the thing with editing movies is you can go forever, and as I even watched the movie today,
You were there.
I see edits that, you know, we could have made, and it's the problem with looking at your own work. But yeah, I mean, we actually edited the movie for a little while, which I think is typical when it's your first movie. You know, it's editing. You know what's tough with editing is having 2 people in the room. With my brother and I think that is the process went pretty smooth, but I think in the editing room, I remember there was one particular very brotherly fight.
Not in alignment.
Yeah. Well, you know, everyone's got an opinion, but we were actually both really good about you know, agreeing what was the best thing at the end of the day. I think usually you can agree on the best idea.
I got a question towards the back.
I'm curious, Stephen Dorff, his leg,
Can you talk about that process and what that was like and going through, I guess, for him to do that entire process?
Yeah, Stephen was actually really committed. He went to some veterans hospitals and hung out with amputees to really sort of understand the physicality and, you know, what happens when you only have one leg. And he did a lot of research on his own for that. But, you know, actually with the prosthetic, you know, he would wear a sock, you know, a green sock or a white sock, and, you know, we would put the prosthetic on when we needed it. And there's a couple tricks that are used in the movie business that you learn. Forrest Gump was a movie that we actually learned a few different tricks from. Yeah. I hope that answers your question.
One more question towards back.
On the set, how did you function, you and your brother, as directors with your actors? Would both of you talk to your actors on a given day or from shot to shot, or did you decide one of you would be the delegated director? How did you split your responsibilities?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we communicated a lot before going to set every day with sort of what we wanted, obviously. And, you know, in the moment when things are happening, that's kind of where all the gravy comes out. We both would talk to actors. You know, one of us, I think, did it a little bit more primarily, but it was very open, and you know, it was never a problem. You know, we knew sort of what we wanted from each scene, kind of going into it, and you know, it's whatever's kind of the most interesting ideas and whatever's working, and you know, kind of the best ideas rise to the top.
A question from the balcony to your left.
I have a location question. The casino, the filming inside the casino reminded me of one I was in Lake Tahoe recently, and then also the Virginia City, where some scenes filmed in Virginia City. The boardwalk outdoors reminded me of that.
What was the question?
Location questions. Was
Yeah.
the casino
What casino
in
was it?
Reno
Okay.
or?
It was in Reno,
Tahoe?
and you're right, that was not Elko, that was Virginia City. We just wanted something that was more contrasted to Reno, and Elko is pretty urban, and Virginia City is more of this picturesque town in the mountains. So we ended up shooting in Virginia City for just aesthetic purposes. Good catch.
Down center to your left.
Well, it's actually a very simple question. Maybe you can clear something up. I didn't read the book, and I'm no medical professional, but which character left the blood in the potty?
I didn't hear
Which
that.
character threw up with the blood in the? That was Frank.
Yeah.
Out the other end? 'Cause I know he had that bad infection, so I was wondering.
Yeah. No.
It was alcohol induced, I think. Right?
Exactly. Frank has the problem with alcohol, and you know, one of the things that we like too, and I don't know if this came through, but we were going for it, is we kind of wanted the audience to not sure who was going to die at the end, and so I think that both are kind of heading in that direction, and
It's optimistic.
yeah, exactly. So you know, Frank is definitely not drinking his green juice every day, you know.
Question from the balcony to your left.
First off, I like the flick a lot. I wanted to ask you how badass it was working with Chris Christopherson. What?
It was great. Obviously, I feel really lucky to have had that opportunity, and one of the best pieces of feedback I got. I guess Chris and Willie and Woody Harrelson watched the movie together in Hawaii, because they're all in Hawaii a lot, and they all loved it. And Chris actually said it. I mean, he might have just been saying this because I'm the director, but he said it's his favorite movie he's been in, and that felt really good.
To your left, all the way to the back theater.
Hi, really enjoyed the film. My question is, from your perspective as the director, what were you trying to communicate to the viewer by virtue of the use of the animations? What, as director, did you want to get across to the viewer?
Well, each animation is placed at a time where Jerry Lee needs a specific thing. So there's 5 animated sequences, and each one sort of thematically ties into the sequences that kind of come right before him. So they sort of speak to what he needs. So in a way, they're kind of used to kind of calm him down and deal with the issues that he's dealing with at the moment. But I think on a broader sense, the animation is really an insight into their influences as people and human beings, and really, I hope that the viewer gets a better sense of who these guys are, where they've grown up, what their fears are, what their hopes are, what their dreams are, without having dialogue that between the two guys that talks about it. It's sort of this fantasy world that I hope makes the characters much richer for the audience, which hopefully gives a deeper experience to the people watching the film. So that's sort of, I think, a huge reason why we wanted to make this movie over other movies. I think when you see a lot of dramas, a lot of straight dramas don't have this next layer of depth that we were able to get from these animated sequences. So, we saw it as a real opportunity to create deeper, more, dynamic, multi-dimensional characters.
From the balcony in the center.
Could you talk about a little bit about your early influences and where you went to film school and upcoming projects?
I think he was talking about where you went to film school and other projects. Is that correct?
Early influences.
And early influences, okay. We can start with film school.
Yeah, I know. I neither myself or my brother went to film school. We were self-taught. To be honest with you, I think I probably learned the most about directing from watching director commentaries of other movies, of filmmakers that I really respect. And, I'm influenced by a lot of different people. I hate to sort of point to a few different people, but there's different things about each storyteller that I respond to. And I think when you're trying to tell a story, you would just want to do it as truthful as possible, and I think everything influences you. And there's not one storyteller, filmmaker out there that I think is exactly what I like, but a lot of people have different things that you can draw from, and I think that the key is understanding what it is about other filmmakers and storytellers that you're relating to, and it's really resonating with you, because I think that helps you understand how to be the most truthful with yourself. Because the more you kind of understand what it is exactly you like, and you can kind of put a finger on it, it helps you be more truthful in how you tell stories. I always like hearing people guess who they think are my biggest influences. I kind of think it's a funny thing. Hopefully it feels unique enough that You can't point to one person, but, you know.
We have a question midway to your right.
Hi, I really appreciated the casting in the smaller roles and the care with which that was done. I recognized Dayton Calley from Deadwood as the older gentleman in the gun shop. And I wonder if there were any stories around him. I know it was a really small part, but I thought he was just great in it.
Yeah, he was great. I wish we could give him more lines. You know, like you said, from Deadwood, I think that the casting, I think that everybody in the movie kind of had a little bit of a persona outside of the movie that was in accordance with who they played in the movie. You know, even the Tommy character had these 2 real tattoos of 2 deer bucks on his forearms. And he's in a gun shop, and it just was so perfect, you know? Yeah, I don't have a crazy story about him, but, you know, he was great. I think he worked one day, and it was great to have him.
Are there any more questions? I see this woman sleeping in the front row. She's dead asleep. I had to point that out. I kept looking at her and I didn't want to laugh, but she just.
Damn.
Are there any more questions? Where is Stephen Dorff?
Yes.
He's actually, he wanted to be here. He's sound mixing a movie that he just made, so he couldn't make it.
Well, tell him we just think he's great.
I will.
Yeah, he was really great.
I will.
So thank you, everyone.